You're listening to Call That Girl's Office 365 show. I'm Lisa Hendrickson, your hostess, and this is show number 24. Just a reminder, you can find all my shows and notes at callthatgirl.biz/office365 or at podnuts.com/CTG. And this is a live show on YouTube. You can subscribe to my channel at youtube.com/callthatgirl, where you can find a mix of all my shows and how-to videos and a few past shows. Now, this show is about Outlook and Office 365, so if you're an aspiring Office 365 tech or a veteran and just like listening to my stories, I welcome everyone. We talk a lot about Exchange because, in time, as we do more shows, we will touch upon other Office 365 products as well. We focus on this because this is where the technicians are doing the most work. This week, I welcome our guest, Mike Smith from the Mike Tech Show. Welcome, Mike.
Hi. Thanks for having me.
I'm thrilled to have you as a guest. I've watched all your shows as many as I can, and I always hear you talk about migration, so I thought you'd be a perfect guest this week to have because we want to hear your stories of how you got started and things you do with it, and the technicians really like to learn from us. So before we get talking about that, though, let's talk about CompTIA.
Yes.
Tell us what you're doing.
I can't wait. I'm flying out on Saturday, August 1st, and I'm already, matter of fact, to anybody listening, they better book quick. And as a matter of fact, I bet it's the Hilton, I think, is totally booked already. So you're going to be looking for a hotel nearby. But we have a lot of things scheduled, some meetups, and I know there's going to be other gatherings of techs and the different podcasters that are there. The meetup on Sunday, and then there's events Sunday night, and then it's going to be fun, and I can't wait. I leave on Thursday, so if anybody's out there, you want to click on Call That Girl's link and get your promotion for your free promotion code for you don't have to spend any money for the conference, and which is except for your airfare in the room. I think it's an incredible deal to be able to mingle with the techs and also potential vendors and getting to see other different managed services and you might find different revenue streams just by attending there and visiting the vendors, for products and services you can now add to your suite, for offering for clients. So I'm excited. Got everything.
I think last year at the event I kind of got a taste of what it's about. So this year I can come a little more, knowledgeable of the event.
Yep. And
as we said earlier, a lot of people are flying in on Saturday. A lot of just like the old school people, I think, in our term, get there early. Sunday, I'm an exhibitor, so I have to prep for my exhibit table. And then Sunday at 5 o'clock, we're having the podcasters meetup with the Technibble meetup. So we're promoting it two ways.
Okay.
And then I believe later on, Corey Fruitman's having an event with Instant House Call and his Jetpack. I'll give him I don't know the official stuff of it, but I do know something's going on. So already on Sunday, you have two events that you can come to.
Yeah.
And then Monday starts the event.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Mike?
I'm excited. Tuesday. Do you know the party Tuesday night is at Wrigley Field? So
I know.
That's a bucket list item for me. So that's
awesome. I heard that. Kerry told me that. Actually, I spoke to him and Kerry Holzman, and he was like, "Oh yeah, this is gonna be a great event. Mike's gonna love that." And I'm not a big baseball fan, so I don't know. I might go or not. But I mean, there's just back-to-back stuff going on, and plus you get free food, breakfast, lunch, and food at the reception vendor fair. So really, you just need to cover your hotel, and like you said earlier, they are running low. I'm sharing a hotel room with one of my friends from Technibble. So, I mean, we're sharing, but we got a better suite up higher.
Oh, nice.
Because we're girls.
Yeah. Actually, Carrie's going to be bunking with me. So.
Nice.
So, there's a listener, Mike, in one of the moderators from my chat room for my show, is actually picking me up at the airport, so I don't even have to worry about a shuttle.
Nice. So, well, the shuttle's free too, by the way.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, I don't have to share. Just having someone pick me up, I'm like, that's awesome. So
I'm kind of freaked out because I'm driving it.
Oh. Okay.
And I'm not a big fan of driving on interstates at all, so I'm going to chump it up and just do it and maybe take some back roads for, sightseeing because I'm in no hurry. I live in Iowa, so I can just, take my time. But I was like, why fly? That makes no sense. I got to hit 2 airports. It takes me 6 hours anyway, and Phooey.
Flying for me is like 2 hours or something. It's like ridiculous fast. So that's easy. So fly in, fly out. So
Taz is coming?
Yes, Taz.
Cool.
There's going to be, I think you're going to see a lot of the people from the last CompTIA show. You know, a lot of the listeners that came there, I think are going to come because I think Chicago is actually easier and it's more central. You know, Winston Wolf, who's always in the chat, he's only 3 hours away, so he'll be there.
Nice.
You know? And then there's a bunch of others that have already started. Listeners, I've asked them to email me, you know, for when they're coming in, so this way we can text them and whatever.
I'm collecting everybody's information too because the one thing I've kind of felt a little bit last year was kind of lost because it was such a huge venue. I mean, you remember it was this huge hotel resort, and if I went upstairs to go work, I didn't know where people were.
Right.
And so one thing I'm going to do this year for the people that come that's in our circles is I'm going to give you a sticker to put on your lanyard badge.
Okay.
So if you happen to see someone else with that lanyard badge with our sticker, you know they're part of our crew.
Yep.
And you should feel more comfortable going up to them saying, hey, what's up? You know, I'm so-and-so, I'm this, I'm that. And you have something in common because it's a very large, venue, and a lot of people are kind of lost because they didn't come with someone maybe.
Maybe we should have our own hashtag on Twitter that this way wherever we're going. See, I was starting to think, where can we post that, maybe, CompTIA CTG or something for Call That Girl.
It's just something.
I mean, just anything. And hey, we're going to be over here. We're going to, we're doing something.
It's 4 days. You can't be lost the whole time. And like I said, last year I had to work a lot. Well, this year I'm not going to be working a lot. I'm putting a ton of effort into this conference because I'm mostly doing my exhibit table to promote my Office 365 show.
Right.
And I'm like, who comes to an event to promote a show? Me.
Yeah. And I want to just attend. That's something I didn't do because I worked my butt off the last show and never attended one conference.
You got to go.
Any of them.
You got to.
And I want to embrace that and enjoy it more, so...
that's why we're doing the podcast thing on Sunday night, and I'll just review real quick who are the podcasters in. It's myself, Mike Smith, Carrie Holzman, Jeff Hallish, Chris Crothers, Stephen McLaughlin, Door Geek, Matt Rainey, and Matt Rodella. So it's a pretty good lineup.
We couldn't get Steve Carabino out there?
I emailed him twice.
Okay.
I said, he couldn't make it, so I understand. Oh. And PC Freddy's coming. So
cool.
He's one of our fans. That was supposed to be his hat. Maybe he'll get it back this year. Yeah. As far as I know, I've gotten a few other people that have signed up, so that's good. I think it's a cost thing. Technicians need to think about is that, sure, you got to pay for the hotel and your flight.
You can write it off.
You write it off, and it's educational because there's, like Mike said, last year he missed a lot of stuff. That's why we're doing the podcast show on Sunday. So you have time Monday through Wednesday to go to the events and participate and take full advantage of the learning and meeting the vendors and other contacts. I mean, that's just a huge networking event for all of us.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and I like the exhibit table thing. You should make your rounds once and then go back and try to connect a second time. That's what I learned that was hard for me last year.
Yep, and I did do that last year. I met two of my vendors that I partner with, or I should say that I resell their services, and that was kind of nice.
Yeah.
And that was fast because I seen them and I just let me talk to them, and I think the whole experience, not just the podcaster meetup, meeting with other users, but actually going to the sessions and then meeting all these vendors. It's if you're an IT, if you're a consultant, that's it. It's a slam dunk.
It's a cool place, and there's really not many other technical conferences out there for techs like us.
Right.
I know of, and I think Comp used to be promoted as for like the larger MSP companies and larger corporations, but they have really been honing in on getting the general technical crowd in there because there's a lot to offer us, and
there's a lot of us that do this.
Oh yeah, we need them and they need us. So I've been out promoting as much as I can and participating. And last year I tried my best, but this year I'm full in.
Yep.
I'm gonna participate as much as I can.
Cool.
All right, Mike. Well, let's get started on with our topics here. I'm sure our listeners here want to hear all about your experiences and whatnot. You got a ton of them. I hear you talk about on your show a lot
Yep.
what you're doing and stuff, but I think let's get down to the guts more of it because a lot of technicians need to learn Office 365 because it's not going away.
Yes.
It is only going to get bigger and better, and we all have to learn from each other because where else are we going to go? There's no learning manual. Right?
No, I agree. Oh, this is it. Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So let's start off by saying, tell us about the first time you did. Now, we're not going to use the word Office 365. We're going to talk about a migration for Exchange.
Yes.
Yeah.
A couple years ago, one of my regular retainer clients, and this is a law firm, and they're in Center City, Philadelphia. They're in a big building, but the building has power outages, not on a regular basis, but enough where it can disrupt the business. And there's no backup generator to the building, and they're at the mercy of the facility, so they can't do their own generator or anything. They have to, comply with the building. They had their own Exchange server, and I sat down with the two owners of the two attorneys who that's their business, and said, Mike, what can we do? And I said, well, you need to move your email to the cloud, but it had to be Exchange services, and we couldn't just go to a plain POP or IMAP email or Google Apps or something. It had to be Exchange hosted services because they rely on shared calendars, shared contacts, public folders. And once you start hearing that, that's it. Bing, bing, bing. It's Exchange hosted services. So I went looking. I found a vendor that I read a lot about, and I said, that's it. I spoke with them and kind of vetted them and went through the process myself. And
I learned it all on your own.
Oh my God. So luckily we're talking about 7-8 users, so we're not talking real big, but I learned first a couple things. I did not know of Auto Discover at that time.
Oh no.
So and if you're lost when you hear that, don't worry. We're going to cover that. I had to manually set up the client. So the first thing I had to do was learn, okay, I got to export everything. That's not bad. Export everybody's PST. So piece of cake, except for one person. What do you do when they're 20 gig, anyway, for their PST? So now I export all their PSTs, and I recruited one of my sons to help me as we're hitting each desk, and I export everything to the PST, and now you gotta, for this particular vendor, they have a temporary storage space for you to FTP the PSTs. So you FTP the PSTs up there, and once it's uploaded, you then say, I want them to import it into this mailbox, and it's just a checkbox. So I do that, I get that, and that's working great, except for the guy who's 20 gig. So you learn about the upload speed of the ISP, and they're Comcast, and Comcast caps you at like just a couple meg. So you
for business.
Yeah, for business. So you have no bandwidth to upload. So it was time, and that was the big struggle. It was that was the first learning experience. This took a long time because of that 20 gig, upload, and other than that, everything went really, really well for my first time. It was a complex setup, and I said, boy, there's got to be an easier way to set up the Outlook client, because now you got to go in and configure, all these advanced settings for the Exchange proxy setup and the security, and there's all these complicated things in setting up the client. And once I got all that down, everything was great, and I moved them to the Exchange hosted. We ran that way, and then this was part of a server upgrade where I was taking them off of small business server and onto a regular server. They were small business server to, oh wait, no, you know what? We went from small business server 2003 directly to Small Business Server 2011, which was the last real small business server. And after that, everything was great, and that was my first migration. So I learned a lot after that.
Well, sounds like yours actually was pretty easy because it was PST, or sorry, Exchange to Exchange.
Right, exactly. If
Mine
you're
wasn't.
not,
Mine was Google Apps to Exchange.
I've been very, very fortunate, and I've moved from other ISPs. Here you go, Verizon Mail. To a once you get it to a PST, I love the upload process. Now you're going to like something that my upload at home is so fast that if the company's close enough locally to me, I will take the PSTs now to an external drive, bring it home, and upload it because it's so much my bandwidth is so much faster. And now it's even significantly faster. Back then I was only 35 meg up and down. Now I'm 300 meg up and down.
I've been seeing you do your testings, and it's funny because you blame it on your kids for streaming.
Oh no! Do you know what that one was? That one test? It wasn't. That was a bad server that I was doing the test from because I thought I was having a performance issue and I wasn't. So I've been consistent across the board. I'm 314 meg down. And 345 down and like 314 up. So it's incredible. I mean, so let's fast forward a couple migrations. There's a company in the area. They had an old standard T1, a fractional T1. It was so slow. And the minute I noticed and I seen this, there was only 4 stations. I quickly took those PSTs, put it into an external disk, brought it home, uploaded it in seconds, and then I go online and say, hey, okay, import, to the import to the to their accounts. I'm going to give you one gotcha, and this is something that everybody needs to learn if you're migrating from an Exchange server. Two huge lessons learned. One, if you're going from an Exchange server and it's an internal person after the migration now emailing to an internal person and the Exchange server is no longer there, they're going to get a bounce back if they reply to an email.
Because it's connected to their old server.
It's still trying to, well, no, even if the old server's off, it's still trying to connect to that old server because of the path from that message. You almost have to go in and delete the autocomplete of all of the internal users using a utility like N2K Edit or one of those programs, or you must explain to everybody the first time you're sending an internal email, if it tries to auto-populate, delete it and retype in the email so it now will go through the new path. That was one big lesson.
And that's Exchange to Exchange. I don't see it with IMAP to Exchange.
Right.
But also, just to let you know, I'll throw an ad in here that people that get a new, if you use the same profile in Outlook or not, autocomplete with Outlook 2013, ooh, that's tough to fix. Have you had a lot of problems with that?
No, because of NK2. What I do is that the NK2 Edit program from Nearsoft, what I do is I take their autocomplete file and you ram it in, and what it'll do is it'll merge it to the information store of your hosted Exchange.
Oh, gotcha.
So that's how I've saved
a good one.
Yeah, I've saved a lot of clients who, oh my God, all my autocompletes are gone. So that's, they didn't say the term autocomplete. They just wanted to know where the list of their email users.
They call it their address book.
Right, exactly.
Oh my God, that's there.
That was a big one. Trying to think, there's a couple where the next is they got to know, and sometimes I take care of this right away. Once you implement Auto Discover, and for everybody, what Auto Discover is, and this is such a key, where every migration since the first one has went so much better.
Mm-hmm.
The day of the migration, I will add a record, and it's an A record that you put in to the DNS where it's an IP address provided by your hosted Exchange vendor or your Office 365 vendor, whoever that is. They're going to assign a specific IP address for AutoDiscover. So you actually make an A record for AutoDiscover for the domain with that IP address. Here's what that does. When you are now doing setting up the new client in Outlook, you can go, you don't have to go manual. You can go automatic. You put the user's name, their password, so the full email and their password, and it will go out and it will start looking for that record. And when it sees that IP address, it will now go to that vendor and it will now come down and configure Outlook automatically. And you just got to say, yes, you trust it, and to say it's okay and allow it. And oh, does that make life so much easier then after that?
Oh, I love AutoDiscover. I've had to do it manually only when I've used a third-party vendor that won't let me do stuff.
Well,
that's rare though.
Here's the next problem that I've run into with everybody. They don't own their domain, or they think they own their domain, and before you start the process, you must vet the ownership of the domain. Do they have a real login, and do they have control of the name servers? So a lot of companies, what I find, they can get in and control their domain name, maybe. They can go in, but not their DNS. Their DNS was taken over by the company that is doing their website.
Exactly.
Made them, because they took the lazy way out and just moved the name servers to their website. And I can't tell you how many fights I've had with website developers that said, we're taking that back. Give me the IP address of the website so we can manually. Oh, no, that doesn't work. That's yes, it does work. Give me the IP address, and because we now own the domain. That is the toughest, and I should have brought that up first. That's one of the biggest hurdles of every migration, and a client that I have not going down that road about their DNS. It's getting less and less of a problem if they're an existing client of mine. We've already been through that, because that's on my list of new clients. Like the minute I have a new client, that's at the top of my list. Do you have the login for where you've registered your name? And a lot of them think they own the domain, and they don't. And we have to go through that process. I said, we must go through, and by the way, I went through a process for a client. You'll like this. We're going off topic a little bit. This is a big company. There's a big manufacturer, and they thought they had the domain. Someone bought the company. The new owner bought the company about 5 years ago, and the previous owner had an IT company, well, an individual that bought the domain that was under him. That person died. So we now go look, and this, luckily it was Network Solutions, so we now try to do, go into the domain, because now we're doing some email changes. We had to prove that we own the name.
Yeah.
Okay? So the owner had to, copies of his driver's license, copies, we had to get utility bills, copies of, a copy of the incorporation. Oh my God, we put a list together, a stack of things that had to be sent to Network Solutions. This was a 4-week process.
Yeah, I've been in those before. It's not easy.
And then we finally got it, so you can get it, but not. Well, let's say you planned your email migration for a week. Well, that that schedule got blown away, because we didn't own the domain. So that's one of the toughest things, and your client doesn't understand until you start explaining it, until you see the rabbit hole that you're going down. I seen one for a financial advisor, one of my clients, that their domain was set by a web hosting company that was a third party that then went to someone else, and it was following the path and then trying to grab that. Nightmare. And this was another exchange migration. I have another tip that I got to get off that just came to me. If you're moving from an Exchange server to an Exchange server, which is my typical migration lately, you have to turn off, and I forget, and I don't know if you have it to put in the show notes for here. If not, I'll send it to you.
Okay.
Because I put it in my show notes way back when I mentioned this. You must turn off the auto discover of the local Exchange server. Or no matter what you do in the DNS, it doesn't matter. Local wins. When it's if there's two auto discovers and you got one in the public DNS and you got one locally, local will win, and you'll never be able to automatically configure that Outlook client. I know. I've been through that pain and suffering.
I've had to delete their managed credentials a few times because it keeps going to the old server, and it ruins it for me.
It's very simple. It's a PowerShell script when you open up Exchange. It's just one command that you type, and that's it. Done. You type that command at the shell prompt in Exchange, and all done. And I was very, very fortunate of a third-level tech at my hosting provider that was able to get me that. So even Tier 1, Tier 2 didn't even realize. So that was sort of an advanced one. And that's why the minute I found that out, that was like the #1 thing on my show that week. But it's interesting, and a lot of people, that's going to go over their head. They're going to be like, you know, but I wanted to get it out there and on record, so if anybody thinks when they're running into this problem, they're like, oh, Mike talked about that. Wait a second, and then they can go search in my site and find it, the script. So,
you know what, though? The excuse me, the Office 365 admin control panel, their Exchange is a little bit different. It's not like it's local on your computer, and right now I'm doing my first PowerShell, which I can't believe I'm even saying the word. PowerShell is like, I'm in a new world. I'm in like an administrative word here.
Yep.
So this week I have to fix a person who has 17,000 calendar entries that are corrupted and 3,000 reminders. Well, on my Outlook, I got it fixed. It works like a charm. On his online browser, totally messed up. So I have to go into the Exchange in the admin control panel, which is browser based, so it's not like you can just run a script.
Really?
No.
Wow.
It's the new Exchange, Mike, and that's why you. I know you have a vendor, and I have a vendor, AppRiver.
But it depends on how they present the Exchange admin to you.
It's just like browser based. There's nothing local. You can't just run a script. You have to go into their tools and do stuff.
You ready? I can't do that. What you just said, I have no access to that.
Yeah.
That would be a tech support ticket that I would have to discuss with tech support, and they would have to do it at the server end.
I'd love for them to do this, but I kind of want to learn it, and I might have to actually, since I'm just starting the project, I might actually have them do it as well.
Right.
But the thing is that the one thing that I like telling the users is with this Office 365 and even hosted Exchange and Exchange Online, a lot of the stuff that these support with our vendors do is takes away us needing to be Exchange administrators.
Right.
I love that I could focus on my work and bill my clients for my work, and they can play Exchange.
Yes.
You know, I used to do Exchange a long time ago, but that was in 2003 and 4. I mean, it's so changed this. No, I was running an NT.
I grew up by a little story. I don't know if anybody knows this, and I'll share it. When I was with in the corporate world, and I was with a company called U.S. Healthcare, which got bought by Aetna. And when I was at U.S. Healthcare, we were an early adopter of Exchange before it was released. So I was on a weekly conference call with the Exchange developers. There's actually 2 white papers out there because of me, where before Exchange was even released. And it was so much fun rolling out a product that wasn't even released yet. And it was great. So I got to play. And that's how I learned Exchange.
Nice.
Before it was even out. So that was so I got into the blood and guts quickly of Exchange when it came out, and then literally helped expand my IT career from that. Where when I went to another company after that, where I was the network manager, I really got that because of my email background, and that's what really helped get me in. And it was email that kind of helped launch my career, you know. So
email's huge.
Yeah,
it's my favorite thing in the world.
Yeah. So then it took so now I'm on my own consulting, well, I'm not dealing with those big companies anymore. I'm dealing with little guys, and I'm dealing with a lot of companies now, small businesses that have old small business servers that are now, and that power outage. Let's fast forward. A group of clients in my neighborhood outside Philadelphia a couple years ago, the ice storms were so bad, the power was knocked out in one of my areas here for over a week. So could you imagine not having access to your email for a week, and you're a business, you almost go out of business. And I had 2 clients that after that massive outage said, we got to get to the cloud for everything. And I helped move their applications. We did the due diligence of calling the application. Is there a cloud-based version? Is there, okay, got that. And then that also accelerated migrations to Exchange hosted services to then now retire that server, get everything cloud-based, maybe replace it with a NAS device or a small server that's just for file sharing, but nothing else. No other services. Everything else cloud-based, including phone systems. So that's another thing that came with the whole suite, having phone systems to recommend for cloud-based, because you got to be able to run your business when there's no power to the building. And in the northeast quadrant where I'm at, in the Pennsylvania, New York area, there are too many storms and too many events that can take your building offline, and you got to prepare for that as a business. That's actually my selling point, to move someone from their local Exchange server, and that's an easy sell. The next one is, and this is for everybody, if you want to sell these services, what to use. It's the syncing of their calendar and their contacts.
That's right.
This is when I am an iCloud person. I live in an Apple ecosystem along with Windows personally, and I use iCloud for syncing. It works, but it's not perfect. And one of the things, Android, forget it. That's a mess, that world, for syncing. So
unless you're on Gmail.
Yeah. So syncing, true synchronization. Anybody that's not Exchange, my selling point is you need to have complete synchronization where you don't have to worry about your email, and unlimited, where I can't tell you how many clients that I ran into that they're capped at 2 meg or 10 meg or ridiculous quantities to such small mailboxes, where the vendor I'm using, you can have 50 gig, for a mailbox. So one of those, that's another thing, and they can sync with no issue, because now you can use ActiveSync on the phone, whether it's iPhone or Android. The Exchange ActiveSync on Android works great, so love it. And then ActiveSync on the iPhone, perfect. So now that's a slam dunk. If anybody is unhappy with their synchronization, then that's another selling point. So I got power outages and outages of the local server, synchronization, and just overall, having a reliable email all the time, round the clock, and not have to worry about it. And also the total cost of ownership, where that local Exchange server costs so much to maintain, that how many times do they have outages with this, Billy Bob's email service somewhere, that they're reselling some service, and there's an outage every week. So my first meeting with a client is, are you happy with your email? And give me your pain and suffering for email, and then usually the Exchange hosted is where I'm going. And I know, and I mentioned this to Lisa before we started today, her show's Office 365. I separate the two, and this is where you might want to help everybody.
Sure.
I separate Office 365 from Exchange hosted, even though they're together, and there are packages that you can have your Exchange email, and they can provide the Office client. I guess the latest shipping Office, which is Office 2013, right now.
Well, let me tell you one thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have a YouTube video That's going to be basic for text, just to learn the basics. And I've tried it before, but this time I'm going to really make a basic video about it. So watch my channel, youtube.com/callthatgirl for that. It's on my hot list to do this month. But anyway, Mike, here's what I tell people, my clients that call in. They will say, Lisa, I have Office 365 and my email's not syncing. And I'm like, well, let's talk about it first. Did you buy the $99 subscription, Office 365? And they go, yes. So right there, you already know that you're dealing with a business client who went to Best Buy and got a retail box version. They think they got everything.
Right.
Or they went to some other place, whatever. This is very common. Staples, everyone has them. Okay, so that knocks it out. So I tell people, how big is your business? And they go, well, just me, or we have a few people. So then I say, here's what Office 365 Business is. 6 products in one. You get the Exchange, which is the most popular, which you can buy standalone from any vendor. You don't have to buy the full Office product suite. You can just buy the Exchange, which is what I do. You also get the SharePoint, which nobody's really selling right now. OneDrive, which people want, but it's not working, so I don't sell that either. Then you get the Office 2013, which if they already bought the $99 one, they don't need that.
That's right.
And then they get Yammer. And I think that's the 6.
What's Yammer? What's Yammer?
Yammer is a social media plugin for SharePoint for companies. I call them corporations.
Yes.
Corporations that are integrating their intranet with their SharePoint with Yammer. It's a tool. There's a lot of new stuff going on with Microsoft that's really kind of outside of my interest level because I don't deal with big corporations. I try to stick with what I'm supporting to learn. Right. And a couple years ago, the excitement for SharePoint was working well. Then they combined it with their little baby sister OneDrive, and now it's not a happy family. People are not happy with those 2 products together. Until they fix that, I cannot sell it because I cannot support it and make my clients happy. So basically, I just sell Exchange through my vendor AppRiver, and that's all I do. I tell people Microsoft's law is about using Office 365 Home, which is just the software. Right. There's really not a fine line because if you're a home user and a business owner and you work out of your home, you're home. But then I get some people that went out and bought 5 subscriptions for 15 of their employees. Is it my job to play Microsoft ethical police and say you can't do that? Right. No, my job is to do what they want, and if they want Exchange, they can keep whatever they want. I've always put that out there, that I'm not going to force them off because it ain't my job to do that. Microsoft should be controlling that better. Right. You can make it a domain-based only or non-domain. Like if you have a domain, you shouldn't be able to buy the home, in my opinion. Right. But they're too far beyond that. They can't keep up. They're just happy the sales are coming in. So, like I said, it's 2 things. Home and business. Business has 6 products. My people just need Exchange. Yeah, and same here. Now, I thought you were going to say, I expected you for the opposite answer, saying that you're doing exactly what I'm doing, which is it's all Exchange because they already own Office. I can't tell you how many Exchange 2013s host it, and they still have Office 2007. Because they can only handle 1 Exchange account. And you know what? It works. So if they have Outlook 2007 will work on a hosted Exchange 2013. And as long as that's the case, why should they spend the extra money for Office if they don't need it? And some people want the upgrade though, Mike. Some people want the bells and whistles, which I get. Then you offer the whole thing. Then you say, look, there's an Office. Now, my vendor offers an Exchange. I think it's $7.95 a month per user, okay, for the full Exchange. It's $2 more per month, and then they get the full Office suite. So it's like, so it's a call of how many people, and are they going to go through the expense of spending for a new Office upgrade? And that's the next, I guess, the next offering where if they want to go to that new version, I'll say, okay, it's $2 more ahead, and everybody gets the latest version. Guess what I tell my people? I say, if you got a ton of people on 2010, just do the Exchange. Pay my vendor's $4.95 a month for Exchange, and I say, yeah, it's nice. Then I say, as you need to upgrade, just go buy the full license, because you're really going to waste the money on the subscription over many years. And then they go, well, what if I need the new Office 2016? I go, you know what? 2007 has lasted how many years? I know. Why would you need a new one? I mean, I really only upgraded so I could learn what my clients' problems are. I love 2010.
I love 2010.
Love it.
My main system is Office 2010, and I own legitimate Office 2013, and I put that on other systems. My main system is Office 2010 because I just love Outlook 2010.
I know, me too.
I hated 2007, and I hate 2013 Outlook, and so 2010 until I see Outlook 2016, and
I've seen it on the Mac. I've seen it on the Mac already.
Oh, I haven't seen that yet. I want to.
It's pretty nice.
Because they might get me to move, you know. So I actually test it. I own Office 365 Personal for myself, just for the OneDrive. Now I'm actually using OneDrive for my Mac side. So they have an app for my iPhone and the iMac that I sync my files using OneDrive between my Windows and my Office environment.
You are such a traitor.
Isn't that funny? In my Mac. So I'm not using Cloud Drive, whatever Apple was trying to shove down my throat with the latest upgrade or whatever. I didn't go there.
What is it called? It's not an iDrive.
Cloud Drive.
Cloud Drive, yeah.
Something like that. Anyway, iCloud Drive or whatever it is.
That's funny.
So, but here's where I really want it. It was the 5 tablet and workstation licenses.
Yep.
And I have 2 iPads. I have the regular iPad. I have an iPad Mini, and then I have so many devices that to put the Office app, it was cheaper for me to spend that $99 because when I started to do the math, I was like, I'm better off just getting that.
Yeah.
So that's how they suck.
That's what I paid too.
Yeah. So. And it's good because the minute 2016's out, I want to be able to download it immediately and own it, you know, just to test it. You know?
Well, that's the difference I learned from Diane Paremsky, who is like the Outlook queen of the world. She owns a ton of sites. She's always doing stuff, really cool. She actually said it right. The Office 365 is subscription model.
Right.
So all of them is always subscription. You just cannot buy Office 365. But you can go to the Microsoft store and you can buy the products.
Yes.
One by one. And that's just basically the Office products based on professional or the but the home it's called Home and Student. That's what that one's called. But anything with the word Office 365 is always subscription model.
Yes. Okay. That's a good way to
It is a good way.
Yes, that's a good way of differentiating that.
Yeah.
So the next add-on I'm seeing, and I'm living this right now, and this is the biggest thing that my clients, after they move to hosted exchange, they now want to send encrypted email to their target that the person they're sending to. Not everybody, but some people. And there's a couple reasons for this. The first thing is compliance. If they are in an industry that there's any kind of compliance, and I deal with a lot of financial advisors and attorneys, so there are compliance issues, that you cannot send an email in the open email, any email over the internet with any personal information, financial information. You cannot do that unless it's encrypted. So a lot of my clients have no idea where to go for that. So I get the phone call, or I'm already in discussion with them about this. And with my vendor, it's an easy add-on. It's another $4.95 per user per month. And now it builds a portal. So what happens, it takes 24 hours, and what they'll do is they'll build a portal for that client. And now we have to set up, and it's an Outlook toolbar that gets added. Now, if they use the web-based, they don't need that, but it's a toolbar that now gives them the option to click a button if they want to send this email encrypted. And then there's receipt options. Do they want to track it? Do they want to do this? And they can just do the default, send the email, and now the recipient, will receive an email that has a link, for a secure link for them to log in and set up their account. So now they can send back and forth. And I think a lot of us have had this happen with our financial advisors or banks or anybody that has sent an encrypted email. Big companies do this, and they build them out themselves, probably, or but there are services creeping up that offer this, and that's why I highly I recommend always, have an exchange provider. Does AppRiver do encryption?
Yes.
That's perfect. So you want to deal with a provider that, yes, it can do. You want a provider that can do all three, which I'm sure AppRiver does. It's exchange hosted, can provide Office 365 if they need. Hey, they need those apps, and encryption for end to end. Now you got it all for wherever your client's going to fit, and some may need all three, some may need just one. Right. So you want to be able to adapt for your client's needs, and that's what I'm doing. And I'm finding the encryption. And it's an extra couple hours consulting because you got to help them set it up, hold their hands, send a couple messages back and forth to me,
test
them. And then I'll usually bring up the email with them to show how it looks on my side, so they know what their client would see and what they would have to go through. And so I send myself a test message from them, and then I log on to my Gmail, my Google Apps account, and have them, this is what they'll see, and this is what I'll have to do, and take them through the whole process. Once we do that, love it, love it, love it. And now they're secure, they are compliant. It's the right thing. And I mentioned this a couple weeks ago on my show. It's a great differentiator for anybody listening to this show that is in our business. There are a lot of people, a lot of consultants that don't understand this and don't know how to offer it and don't know where to go to offer it, and it's another service and it's another way to get in to maybe differentiate you from the competition. So you now can offer, hey, I can offer encrypted end-to-end email, and you can say that because you're going to bring them to a provider that can handle that and set it up. That's, to me, it's all about the differentiation.
Well, a lot of our listeners are break-fix techs. They work out of their homes. They are closing stores. And this is where I'm telling people, this is your next area to move into. You have to learn it. And I think that I've told this story a few times. My first job, what really bothered me about not knowing how to do any of this was I wanted to learn it so bad that I actually begged and pleaded from people to get the knowledge. Like, how do you do a migration? Right. And it took me about 5 months of begging web designers to tell me, and nobody had a concrete solution. So one thing I did was, I don't know if you know or not, but I wrote a book called Call That Girl's Guide to Exchange Migrations.
Oh, no. Now, I know your remote guide, which I love, love, love.
Well, I wrote a book about how to do exchange migrations because there was nobody out there that I had to come up with my own solution. And also back then I was using a different vendor, and I would call them and say, so what's my next step? So basically all the steps that it takes is in my book. And I do tell stories in the book. It's like 29 pages. I added a whole bunch of new screenshots too, by the way, on how to import, export mail. I mean, a lot of people, I call it the first round of the book, it was good, but see, a lot of technicians don't know Outlook. Right. So they don't know how to export. They don't know that stuff. They're Gmail users, so they're like, I don't know what to do. So the new book, which I'm not calling a second edition, it's just an advanced, better update, it does explain things, Mike, to a T. Wow. So, yeah, it's on my...
I take that for granted because I'm an Outlook person, and I grew up on Outlook from the very first version. So you're right. I personally take that for granted because just like depending on the version, you got to export to import, because it only says that. And that would confuse, I think, a lot of people for the first time. In Outlook 2010, there is no import. You can only pick export, and then you get the import option.
Yeah, it's kind of funny how they changed the little things with the Outlook, but you know what? I think the book, once I actually had a guy who bought the book and wanted his money back. And it only takes me one person to find out why they're not happy, so I revamped the book.
Wow.
Because of one guy. It took me a whole week, but I went through and fine-tooth combed that, and I made every single point in there so people could do a migration without having knowledge. Right. But I think, Mike, with your very first one, you just didn't magically know how to do a migration. You had to learn it. You had to ask people.
Exactly. Now, I was lucky that I had the benefit of some pretty good tech support.
Yeah, me too.
From my vendor, and so they, except for the auto discover, which I wish I knew that from day one. it was great. You know, I just, hey, you got to export everything and then you got to upload it to them and then they'll marry it. And I was like, oh, cool. You know, so it's once you get a process down, you're right. It took some time, and then each one gets better and better.
Yeah. You learn from your own. Trust me.
Oh yeah.
My book is not perfect either, by the way, because you probably do things a lot differently than me. Because I don't FTP anything up to anything. Okay. I keep everything local, and then I set up the new profile. And
it depends. If they're very small PSTs, I'll give you an example where I didn't FTP it. A ear doctor, 5 desktops, and and they're a client of mine, but it's a little drive, and so it's a Friday night, and I decide this is when we're going to begin the migration. I did everything. I decided I'm not going to set foot into the office. I am going to do this all from my desk, and I remoted into each of the desktops and started exporting, and I didn't realize something. These doctors don't use email. Their PSTs were like a couple meg. It was nothing. Nice. It was nothing. I said, don't these guys use email? I was like, I can't believe it.
Oh, they use personal email. Don't worry.
But it was small, and it was so small. I was like, oh, I can just import them right in. You know, so I just did a direct import, which then has to sync back up to the cloud. So I didn't even use the FTP. I think it was a couple hours. I was done the whole migration, and I was like, wow, I never left my desk.
That's how I do all of mine, Mike. I never leave my desk. I have my command center.
I have a lot of, yes. There's one of the things, though, my clients, they want to see me. Every now, like they even if there's no value for them to see me, it's just like they need to know, they need to touch, feel, smell. We're paying for this, and and here he is, and I have to make an appearance, and unfortunately, I can't do 100% remote for all my clients. I do a lot of it, but I can't do all of it. I gotta go into the office sometimes, and this is why they're paying me monthly, So that's another thing that if they're on retainer, I gotta make time to see, to do that. But this one, it was so great. It was just, I was able to, send the test messages, do everything. You can do pretty much anything as long as you got good remote control, and you can, even if it's the server and I had to reboot it, as long as nothing physically stops it from booting. Which I was going to ask you, have you ever ran it? I know this is off topic, but have you ever ran into a problem where not being there, you had to have a human being intervene?
No, but here's what does happen is usually, I just talked to Marvin about this last show, is that I was doing a lot of my migrations during the business day.
No.
Oh yeah, but I always have another way for them to do their email. So they were never like they had their iPhone set up, their iPads, or their online browser.
Oh yeah, I was just gonna say OWA they can just use.
Yeah, and you know why, Mike? I still like doing them during the business day, and here's why: is because I can't work 24/7.
Oh.
And my clients, a lot of times, if I give them, I created new Microsoft checklists for the employees and the owners, so I have a good firm list. I manage the expectations. They're fine with that. But I've also started doing night migrations. But let me just tell you that if I've worked a freaking heavy 8-hour day, the last thing I want to do is a migration at night. So then I'm pretty much screwed either way. Either take off the morning and work at night, so I'm really having this hard time figuring out the balance, but my goal is to get a team to do this moving ahead.
Oh, yeah. My migration always, I like, because I'm going to be changing the MX records. I do this late Friday afternoon. That's where my migrations begin. I try to get an earlier as possible start time. The earliest I've ever been given is 3 p.m. So so I'll start at 3, and then
babysit it.
Yeah, and then take a few hours, but that's when I change the MX records, and like to do that and then I also, my backup is I can come in on Saturday and clean up any kind of mess or any kind of issue. So the main goal is that they're perfectly migrated by Monday morning. And
that's what we were talking about. My thing is that let's say I start a migration at 3 and I've been working since 8, and then I lose that morning of bill time.
Right.
But I like it when the clients are gone, because then they don't have all the little client issues, that make the migration like the, just to let everybody else know, I also import their calendar and contacts in first, because that comes up to the server right away, so people have their data, the critical stuff first. But
I'm lucky I can grab everything on the full export, so I don't got to worry about individually setting up.
A lot of my people are IMAP, so they already have a separate calendar and contacts that's not with their IMAP.
Yes.
But
yes,
it's okay. That's how my book teaches people to do it, is to do those first and import them first, so then
you're right.
Then the mail can take its time. Now, like I said, I don't really want to spend Friday nights managing tons of stuff, but I will. But that's where my decision is: do them during the day or switch to a weekend. And I want my team. But the thing you asked me before was, have I ever had any problems connecting? Now, sometimes during a migration, I'll have things going, and I might drop them.
Right.
I take a note to call them. I have their personal cell phones, every single person.
Okay. Yep.
Because if I say, look, you're all good, the mail's moving, we have aftercare on Monday. So I always give hours of aftercare after a migration, because people always have some problem,
Right.
This don't work, that don't work, so the aftercare is included, but I give them a short window for everybody to be taken care of quick.
Yep.
Because I can't spend days doing aftercare. No more.
No.
Mm-hmm. So if I lose connection, I just say to them, you're good to go. We just have to tune a couple things. But usually, I don't lose connection with them. I've done every one remotely, never on site. Not one.
No.
No.
Great.
I can't. How can you do that when you travel as much as I do?
Me,
no.
I'm not going after just a migration for someone that's in California or someone that's and I'm here. That's not my typical client. My typical client, they're already a client. They're paying monthly, and now we're doing this as another service, as something that they want to migrate to or change.
And that was one of my questions for you on the list here. I think we're going to head up to the next question. Was, how are you marketing your services? And you pretty much are using your clientele, which is what a lot of techs are going to do.
Yes, and something else I'm going to mention just to get it out there. I belong to a business networking group.
BNI?
What BNI? Mm-hmm. I love 70% of my business is through referrals in BNI. If it wasn't for BNI, I would be back in the corporate world, and I would not be a consultant.
You're not the first guy to say that. I've heard tons of guys on Technibble live and breathe by BNI.
I do.
I was never a BNI person. You know why? 7 a.m. meetings don't work for me.
Or lunch, and you got to make it every week, and you got to. Oh, it's a lot of work.
Oh yeah.
So that's my marketing, because it's like $400 and some a year for the fee. Big deal. I made that in 1 week.
Easy.
So it's the time and the commitment that you got to put into doing the one-on-ones to learn about how to sell. My group is 35 people in our chapter. Wow. That means I have 34 salesmen that I'm paying nothing to sell me.
But then you got to sell them. What if you don't like them?
I don't care. I sell them. No. No, but see, that's the thing. That givers gain attitude, where that process where someone who gives me a big referral, I'm now on the hunt to get them something. I'm on the hunt to find them something.
Oh, that's hilarious.
I like to be. I've given such great referrals to a couple people in my chapter. They're out like actively trying to find me something just to pay me back. That's
awesome.
And that's
I never thought about it that way.
And so I love it, and so that's my marketing. So I would say if there was a marketing budget for me, it's whatever I put into BNI and whatever I put into that. Because then there's lunch fees each week and everything. It adds up, but it's not a lot when I look at the overall benefit and the money that I've made from it, and I get solid clients from there. Yeah. So that's one of my that's all I do, and the rest is a great example. This Friday is a brand new client where I've already met them. It's a realtor, and it came from another realtor, which came from BNI.
Oh, so, referral.
Yeah, and that was phenomenal. And there's going to be an email migration, but first I wanted to get the new desktops in place, the new networking infrastructure stabilized, and that's Friday.
Test that internet speed.
Make sure, exactly. Make sure everything's perfect. Then we're going to talk email migration, and we've already discussed it, and that's going to be like a couple weeks later, you know, and we'll do that. But we've already had the dialogue about that, so that.
It's on the plate.
Yeah, and that's great, and that's my typical business. 4 or 5 desktops, you know, a small office. You know, they may or may not have a server. This guy happens to have a server, so
goodbye, old server.
Matter of fact, there's a Synology NAS sitting in my office here that I've already set up with just 3 terabyte mirrored Synology. That's going to be his new server because there's no apps needed. It's just for file. And I'm like, great. I said, see that big server? Right. We're gonna get rid of it. You know.
Goodbye. Machine.
I see techs that do not embrace that because they're afraid of making less money if they don't have a server to maintain. I am the exact opposite. I'm not afraid to tell you how I do it. I'm not afraid to give the information to do. I am so secure in what I know that I know I'm going to make money other ways. So I'm not worried about, I'll never make a decision that I'm going to be the benefactor more than the client. You know, as long as the client is going to be saving time, money, or whatever, and doing it right, the money will come to me for more work, additional services, other things that they need. And so I'm not afraid to get rid of a server, get rid of something, you know, put a NAS in where it belongs. Don't even put a NAS. I've had a discussion with a client. I said, you guys are too small for any peer-to-peer. Let's start, you know, chopping up all these systems that you're using for things and let's clean it up. Mm-hmm. I'm all about consolidating where it makes sense. And yes, it's all about the internet speed. If any, my area, if I can talk them into FiOS, that's the way to go. Because in my area, that's the best internet, but it's not available everywhere. So a lot of them are, you have no choice. It's a monopoly. You only have Comcast or you only have their cable company, and they got no choice. So they're at that mercy. And then I'll talk them into upgrading to a different speed, just because we want to move everything to the cloud. So you got to have good internet. So, by the way, that client that had the T1, they're now a Comcast subscriber, and they are now cloud-based for phone. I think we put 8x8 in for the phone service, and then their hosted exchange. Everything's totally in the cloud, and they are just so happy, faster internet. Oh,
nice. Sometimes it takes a little push to get them to spend a few more dollars.
Yes, or not. You know what? I always, the first thing when I'm meeting with a client, boy, this would be a good checklist. One of the things on my list is to get a copy of their phone and internet bills. Mm-hmm. And I want to see it because I'll go through it and say, oh, no, we can save here. You know, boom, boom, boom. Take a look. What is their contract? When is it coming up?
Yeah.
What is their phone system, and is it a traditional PBX that's based there, or which most 9 times out of 10 it is? When is it coming up for renewal, for maintenance, or contract? Let's take a look at that, and we could save money by moving them to a cloud-based phone system. Mm-hmm. But it all begins with the internet, and if they don't have a good internet speed, then that'll be first on my list. Let's get them on a good internet speed, and then start tackling all those services, and I'll put it together as I understand you can't do it all at once. So let's make sense. Let's do the things first, then second. Like this one client took almost a year before we got everything migrated from a budgetary.
But the budget, yeah,
exactly. So we picked a different thing each quarter to do, and it was great. So now they're there, and so now we have a summer that if there's storms or anything right now in the area, they're good to go, and that's. Like I said, I'll say it again. That's been it depends geographically where is your customer base, and what is the pain point. Is weather a factor? And if it is, take advantage of that to sell services to protect them from the weather events. You know.
Well, so for the listeners, Mike is more of a managed service company. where I'm break fix. So when I get clients in, I don't do any outbound calls. Mine all come in from Google or from past LinkedIn or referrals and stuff. And the business model I have is people want their Outlook fixed, and then it starts to segue out into new sales.
Right.
Like I'll say in my interview, what are you doing for backup and what are you doing for antivirus? That leads to a new sale. Right. Then I say your Outlook sucks. You're on IMAP, Gmail. Let's get you into Exchange. That's another sell. So then my ultimate is the prepay ticket, which kind of steers me into I'm doing little managed services at that point, right? And I also sell my GFI. Right. So I've got kind of, even though I'm not a managed service company like you, I've got little outlets of doing it my own way. Yeah, because
do it both. See, yeah. I tried to do break fix the first day I was on my own, in terms of, and I realized I cannot make a living waiting for the phone to ring, especially if I'm not marketing or advertising or doing anything. You can't make money that way. It's retainer clients. It's those managed services. It's blocks of hours that I bill quarterly, because I try to say my big selling point is, let's smooth out your IT spending over the year by buying blocks of hours from me every quarter, and I'll keep track, give them an accounting, and if they have extra, let it roll over to the next quarter, because eventually they're going to have a problem that's going to suck those hours up. And you won't have an extra bill. You've already paid for it. So it kind of flattens their IT spending. And that's something that I have some clients that love that, that approach. I have other clients that didn't get it. And then I started billing them per hour. A lot of my retainer clients, some of them, if they call me and I help them and everything, I don't even mark it down. I just help them because they're a retainer client. So I had, you'll love this, I had a client that didn't understand. He paid the retainer, and I helped him, and he was going over his hours. And now he didn't want to pay the next retainer bill. And I said, okay, let's true up where you're at already. And I sent him a bill for an additional 6 hours, and he's like, well, I said, you know what, I wouldn't have sent you that if you didn't balk at the retainer bill. And he finally got it, and he finally understood, and he's like, yeah, I don't want to be hourly anymore. I want to pay you. I want to pay you quarterly. And I was like, okay, good. So it's some people.
Our hourly rates are higher.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's another thing. That's what you have to do. My regular hourly rate is $25 higher than the retainer rate. So
yeah, that's about mine too.
And then so they'll save money by buying those. I would say blocks of hours or quarterly. It's like I have a lot of clients that are only 2 or 3 hours a month, but that's okay. I would rather have 33-hour-a-month clients than one 90-hour-a-month client that could go away, and then I'm done. So I'm trying to spread the risk over multiple small clients, where I still have a couple big ones, but if they ever go away, if something ever happens, which can happen,
I know.
I've lost clients because they were bought by somebody else, or and
I've lost a few, and you know what? I said this a few stories, just because they moved to a new office and the guy next door does IT.
Exactly.
They weren't even unhappy with me, Mike.
Right.
They just said, well, the new guy next door does IT, so we're just going to use him.
Yeah.
I got fired for no really good reason. I was really kind of irritated.
I've had that happen a couple times to me.
Yeah, it sucks.
Mine was more of takeovers, of mergers.
Oh,
and other, where they didn't have an IT department, merged with a company that had a big IT department. And so I had to consult my way out of a job. I had to help with the merge.
Oh.
That's my job,
Yeah.
I had to merge the IT services, and then, okay, goodbye. And
cute.
I had to do it. Like I said, I've had a couple, well, here you go, perfect one. One of my biggest clients, I consulted myself out of a job because I did my job, and that was at the Franklin Institute. I was a consultant there a couple years ago in Philadelphia, and that's huge, the Franklin Institute. I redesigned the entire network infrastructure, had to rehire a new IT director, new network manager. I built a network team and did this in a year and a half, and then they didn't need me now because I did everything. And that's okay. That's the job of a consultant. That's why I like the title consultant more than I do repair tech or any kind of
contractor? You know the difference between a contractor and a consultant, right?
what?
$125 an hour.
Yeah.
That's why I never use the word contractor. I call my people that work for me vendors.
Oh, okay.
It's just a professional kind of thing. You know, people, I don't know. It's just something I think about as I keep growing. Mike, I got one last question here for you, and then I think we'll wrap up.
Yep.
Now, since you've been doing a lot of this Office 365 work and your hosted Exchange, how do you feel Office 365 will be a part of all computer tech services moving ahead?
You will either offer this service or perish. Okay, no.
I have to agree. I mean, if you don't get to know it, you're not going to be in the game.
You have to have it in your tool bag, or Lisa and I will take your job. Okay.
You know what? People are fast to, like before, when you thought people are fast calling around for virus removals,
yep.
They're just as fast Googling Office 365 in your town, and
yep.
Guess what? I'm marketing to your town right now.
Right.
I have hundreds of cities and states I'm covering because nobody's doing it. So
right.
It's up to techs to start competing with me. They're going to call you locally before me because I'm remote only. They want people like you, Mike, to
right.
come in, sit down.
Right.
But my rates are also very high compared to what your rates might be.
Right. But that's that's my selling point. You can see me. You have a problem, you can wrap your hands around my throat. You can say, you know, I'm accessible, and that's the difference. You're right, and that's where, and I would use that point if we were competing on someone. You know,
that's right.
I was like,
well, that's the thing is, right now no one's doing it.
Exactly, but I'm doing it for local and local businesses that I can put under contract.
That's right. So you have a different business model.
There's so much work out there for everybody.
Oh, Mike. People are tire kicking me now with Office 365 consulting. I'm not kidding. I get tons of requests saying, look, we just had a migration done by whatever company.
Right.
There's a ton of things not working. How much do you charge? I go,
there you go.
Well, I'm hourly, or you could buy a ticket.
Right.
And I go, how many people? They're like 12, and everything's all messed up. And I go, well, then I have to go one by one because everybody has different problems. So... Right. You know, what they really want is a local person at that point to come in because I'm remote only, and I mean I'm doing fine, Mike. No question. People hire me without knowing me, but I know that they're like, well, we really want someone local. So I'm telling all you techs out there to get into it, get in the game, start learning, listening.
Have you thought of getting having not employees, but let's say it's Philadelphia. You'd reach out to me, say, hey, Mike, I got an opportunity here, and then take a referral fee, you know, or take a kickback of a percentage, you know, for that referral, or you know someone in Tampa, and you know, hey, can I, you know, it's almost like building a trusted
troop
list.
That's a troop.
For referrals, do you know what I'm saying?
I just did one actually for a job in Iowa. One of the guys on Podnuts was listening to me, and he said, look, I've got 17 users. I cannot do it alone, but I want to learn it. So they actually contracted with me for an 8-hour ticket. He did probably 80% of the work. I did 20.
Right.
I did the coaching and guiding him, but he was on site, so he did all the work. And in about 5.5 hours, we got it migrated. So that's out of my bill time. So that tech actually saved, you know, the company $2,000-$3,000 from paying the large expenses, and hired me as a consultant. So you're kind of on something there, Mike. If I was to heavily market more, to call the local techs and say, do you want to go on site and help me with this?
Right.
And be a part of it.
And don't go through the call. Don't go through the cost burden of hiring them or doing it. It's a, you know, a subcontractor relationship or whatever that, you know, that. I just see that, and I'll tell you, I can't take credit for that idea. A long time ago, you know who wants to do that? Carrie Holzman wants to do that on a national level. He would love to. We've talked about that a long time ago and never did anything about it.
You know what? Carrie and I always have ideas. In fact, he's next on my show list.
Yes. Cool.
Yep, I'm going to promote it. Carrie's going to be my next guest, I think, this coming week. We just decided on doing it, and we're going to do a totally different show. Because he doesn't do Office 365.
No, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're going to hear his consulting very different than mine. And oh my God, we're at the opposite ends of what we do. That's why I wish we were in the same area because he does what I hate, and I do what he hates. So it's like a perfect marriage for doing consulting.
And you guys met last year at Comp. Was that the first time in person, or
No,
at the
actually
50th?
at my 500th show was the first time we met face to face in Fort Washington. So that was in March, and then we met again. This is the third time. Now this is great. That.
I know. I told Carrie last time I spoke to him on the phone, I said the highlight of Phoenix was meeting you and Mike, and I was just like, it was really cool, That's why I'm really excited for this year to even meet more people, because
a
lot of us we're virtual friends,
Well, I'm excited about meeting Bryce from Technibble, which
Bryce
love
is coming.
His site and everything. And now, I mean, we talked to him in Phoenix, but he was, just a voice,
Yeah.
But
him and his wife are coming up. That'll be really cool, and I think they're going to stay a little extended.
That's great. I'm real excited. So, well, thank you for having me.
Well, Mike, why don't you tell the listeners how they can reach you, get to your site, and also the Tech Vets too.
Okay. Yes, and there'll be another Tech Vets hopefully this week. Well, to get to me, it's MikeTechShow.com, and it'll flip you to the website MikeNation.net. That's a long story. Then my podcast is every live on Ustream every Thursday night at 8 p.m. I get on early and do a pre-show and stay on for a post-show. But again, MikeTechShow.com, and you can find everything that you need. Tech Vets is tech-vets.com, where I co-host a tech show that's more business-oriented to the consultant and to the repair tech with Carrie Holzman. And we have a great time. We don't record enough. We're trying to get back on. We did one last week ago, so hopefully we'll get another show soon out.
I was in the middle of that, too. You both were like, we got to go. I'm like, see ya.
All right. But anyway, so that's how best way to get a hold of me. If you ever want to email me, MikeTechShow@gmail.com.
Yeah, Mike has hundreds and hundreds of shows up on his site, and you can just search and find a lot of information there. I try to check in every time if I'm working. When I get your Ustream, I will check in, and half the time I think he's already doing a show, and it's a pre-show. So it's fun to enjoy the pre-show.
Sometimes it is a double show. I get worn out. Because I'm like, if I get on early, if I get on at like 7 o'clock, I'm doing a show by answering questions and everything, talking. I've talked an hour, I'm all worn out, and I was like, I got to start my show.
Yeah, it's cute. And one time I was like, aren't you already doing the show? You're like, no, I haven't started. I'm like, well, I got to go. That was fun. But a lot of times I'm working still, so it's early here.
And then I play DJ for the post show, which is very, very interesting. That a long time ago, someone requested music, and then that started a whole thing. So,
anyway, Mike's shows are fun.
Yeah.
I like to catch them. I actually listened to your last one on the download because I missed it on Thursday, so I caught it last night. Mm-hmm.
Oh, cool. Yeah, I know. I just posted it up, too. That's another thing. I'm so anal about editing, it takes longer to get posted up, especially with my consulting. It's like, wow. It's like yesterday late, I didn't get a chance to edit the show and get it posted up because I have a lot of post-production work I do, and it's just audio. I can't imagine if I did video what I would do to it. It would take me days to get it.
Oh, I suppose.
Perfect.
I'm just starting to do these live hangouts, and I really like it because it's instant publishing, and I can get stuff out there. But, I'm just testing it because I've been doing the Podnuts downloads for such a long time. But we'll see how it goes.
I hate to tie you up. Is there a chat live for this right now that I don't know? Because I was just curious. I'm so used to anytime I'm on live, there's a chat room, and I was just wondering.
You know what? I think there's some people in it right now. You know what, Mike? Here's what I don't know how you can do it. Is look at the chat and talk. It drives me crazy.
Oh, okay.
There has been people in here, but they're talking foreign.
Oh, they're talking foreign.
So guess what? I think as my people get used to more shows and everything, it'll get better. But there are comments. I haven't even paid attention.
I always kind of. But that's why you have to have moderators, which is nice. And I have a couple that I have a few that there's always usually one there, sometimes all of them.
Yeah.
And it's kind of nice, only because you can't do it during the show recording like we're doing now. A lot of times I have to pause, and then I'll take a look at what's going on. I keep one eye kind of there in case anything's happening. But it's really good for. I'll tell you something I've done. Like if I do a lot of listener emails, and so if I get a complicated question, I may pause my show, go to the chat room, get an answer, and then continue recording and say, okay, the chat room has come up with this, and put it in the show. So that's kind of cool.
That's sneaky. That's funny though. Well, I used to do my shows where I had to do some edits in between, but now I'm a straight shotter.
Yeah.
I've learned I just have to straight shoot, go through it, and I've been having pretty good luck with it.
That's what Tech Vets. That's what Carrie and I we decided.
Really?
We have no time, and the listeners kind of voted. Mike, don't worry about editing. We'd rather you get the content out there as is quickly than spend time editing.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, so that's how.
People want to hear us.
Yep.
All right, well, I'm going to close the show here. Thank you for coming. I think the listeners got a lot of value out of it. I'd like to also thank my sponsor, AppRiver, email and web security specialist. If you're interested in being a reselling partner or a partner of AppRiver, contact Steve Harris. That's SHARRIS at appriver.com. This has been a Podnuts production, audio supported by Mitch Hammond. Thanks again to our sponsor, AppRiver. Be sure to check out other Podnuts podcasts, Podnuts Daily, Android Apps Addicts, Linux for the rest of us, and the Geeksters. If you have a story you want to share, or if you want to be a guest on my show, email Lisa at callthatgirl.biz. If you want to check out my ebooks, including the Microsoft Migration Exchange book, it's callthatgirl.biz/publications. That's it, folks. Catch you next time. Thank you.